Welcome to our podcast where we look for opportunities in our lives to see a beautiful view. I'm Candy.
And I'm Paul. Thank you for joining us again today.
Yes, thank you for joining us. We want to give another shout out to the Hopeful Few for allowing us to use their beautiful song, I'll Go Anywhere With You, on our podcast. You can check them out on Spotify. The link is in our show notes.
We are so excited to share with you again today.
So sit back, relax, and enjoy the beautiful view.
We could climb a mighty mountain, float on down a winding river, travel back in time and face our future too. I'm not scared of where I'm going, 'cause I know whose hands I'm holding. Oh, I'd go anywhere, as long as you're going to. Well, I'd go anywhere, as long as I'm with you.
Today, we are going to hit on a topic that a lot of people are really curious about. So when you travel full time on the road and you are constantly going from place to place, people are really curious about how you find community in that setting. How do you do life with other people when you're constantly moving around?
And we'll also talk a little bit about our transition back to a house again now. Back to the bricks and sticks life, as
Yes.
RVers like to call it.
Yep.
And how we found community here in Bellevue, Iowa.
Yeah. We're also going to do a little bit of Mythbusters today. We've actually heard this several times. So people are like, you live in an RV and you travel all over. There's no way you can be a part of a community living like that. There's no way you can have community.
Yeah, we've heard that from several people. And from our ministry background, we have friends who are pastors. And of course, they are very used to gathering a church, a congregation of people together every Sunday. And so they are usually very geographically bound.
Yes.
And so they set up in a school, or they have a church building, and they bring people in on Sundays and midweeks and other times to have community within a building.
Right.
So their view of what community is very much the same as a bricks and sticks approach to life, which is that, you know, I have a house. So my house, my family house, and I have my church house. And those are the places I go to live and to meet other people.
Right. Right. Yeah. And, you know, when you do live in a house, some of that is very valid. But, you know, when we were on the road full time, our community actually looked different at different times. So when we very first started out, we got to spend a huge amount of time with extended family that we hadn't been able to spend much time with for quite a few years before that, because we didn't live in the same city.
Right.
And we might occasionally get to come in for a holiday and spend a little bit of short period of time, but vacation time was limited and, you know, that kind of stuff. So when we first moved into our RV, we just totally spent all of our time with our community was our extended family.
Yeah, and it wasn't so much about the distance that we were living away from them.
Right.
It's not about traveling to family. It was about leaving the schedule that we had and the people that we had around us where we lived.
Right.
Which made it very difficult to be spontaneous about anything.
It did, yeah. When we actually hit the road, though, how did we meet people? How did we go about intentionally connecting with other people on the road?
We obviously were around other RVers in a campground, whether that was a RV park or a state park or a COE park. And so you knew that there were people living in those RVs around you, and you would see them outside. So one of the things that we did is we would take the dog for a walk.
Right.
And then you can kind of, give a friendly...
Scope it out.
Yeah, scope it out, give a friendly wave, and figure out the RV people that like to live outside a little. There are those RVers that just stay inside.
Yeah, there are.
But there's a lot that do like to be outside. They'll cook breakfast outside.
Oh, the campground smells in the mornings.
It was good. It was good. So taking a morning walk was one of the ways. Then on our Wi-Fi router, we named our Wi-Fi after our website and blog, which was ourmovinghouse.com.
Right, which told our story. So if anyone jumped on or tried to jump on that and saw ourmovinghouse.com as one of the names of the Wi-Fis around, and then they happened to jump on our blog, they could find out pretty much everything they wanted to know about us and our family and traveling and so forth. And we actually, one of our very first kind of trips out to one of the Texas state parks, we actually met another family like that. They literally saw our Wi-Fi, looked up our website, realized that we had a whole ton of things in common, and came and knocked on our door. And that family, we had so much fun with them that week. They ended up extending their stay to hang out with us longer, and we enjoyed campfires and hot dogs. And
their kids were the same age as ours.
Yeah.
So they got on great together.
Yeah. And we had worship time together around the campfire, and actually had another young lady come and join us one night. And that was just such a sweet time. And the same family we ended up meeting up with again 2 or 3 more times after that in different parts of the country.
Yes.
That was just a really sweet encounter, and something that, that was probably our first big finding friends and community on the road.
Yeah, and they were also full-timing like us.
They were, yeah.
So obviously not everyone in an RV park is full-timing.
Right.
There are kind of different segments of the RV community. Mm-hmm. So there's your retirees.
Right.
Who are... this is what they've always planned to do in their retirement. So they're traveling, they are full-time.
Right.
And so they're coming into a place and they're going to stay for a long period of time. There are those weekenders that will come into the RV park and park their camper. And party from Thursday night through to Sunday afternoon, which is kind of the majority, I would say.
Yeah, it is.
And then you have actual full-timers where they really don't have a home outside of their RV.
And those were the people that we really wanted to connect with for our sakes and for our kids' sakes.
Yes.
And just to find that community on the road. And we had other things that we did too. So the first 2 summers that we were on the road, we spent the summer at a youth camp.
Yes.
And we worked, we helped them out with some projects that they had, and the kids were able to plug in and help the interns. They were both still pretty young at the time, but Emily got to help a little bit in the gift shop, and she met a lot of people through that and helped with serving food and stuff at mealtime.
Yes.
And Tyler got in with the maintenance crew. He was so cute. He had his little tool belt, and he was probably 6 at the time.
Yeah, they bought him his first hammer.
Yes, he had his first little hammer and a little screw gun, and it was so cute. But anyway, we made so many friends through that, and the kids just had a great time of community. They got to participate in a lot of the different things there. And
Tyler was pretty clever.
He was. Oh, yes.
So, cute kid with dimples. And I remember one time there's this golf cart that pulled up outside our RV. Mm-hmm. And Tyler's sitting in there and being driven by a teenage girl intern. And he had managed to persuade her to give him a ride back to the RV from the other side of the campground.
Yes.
And so I'm like, hey, Tyler, did you manage to get a ride? And then I get a little eye roll from the girl who's driving the golf cart. Like, yeah, I got conned. Yeah, I couldn't
I
resist.
don't think she was complaining too much.
She wasn't.
They loved him.
She wasn't complaining. But we did hear later on, because we were talking about, how we had met. And someone said, so Tyler's not from England? And I said, no, he's not from England. He was born in Texas. And so they were like, well, he sounds very British.
He had been putting on a British accent the entire time we had been there.
Totally.
And pulled all...
Totally had everybody in the palm of his little hand. So he did a really good job of building a community around him.
It might have been a little bit fake, but he did.
Yeah, he did a great job of living it up at Camp Chautauqua.
Somewhere around that time, I had seen on Facebook or somewhere that there was going to be a full-time families rally in Albuquerque, New Mexico, at the Balloon Fiesta. Now, full-time families is a membership group specifically for families that travel full-time. And I'd seen it before, and I was kind of in the non-members group on Facebook, so I would still see the stuff, but we couldn't, at that time, we couldn't participate in the actual membership side of it until we actually joined. So we took that as an opportunity to jump on board and sign up for membership, and then we signed up for that rally. So that was our first introduction to full-time families, and there were probably... Gosh, I think there were 70-something families at that rally. So we really got to meet a ton of people there.
So you instantly had something in common with these families.
Right.
You had things to talk about. The common questions are like, how do you earn an income while you're traveling around the country? Once upon a time, you couldn't earn money unless you were in one spot. But now with the
remote positions were really fairly new at that time for the vast majority of RVers.
Right. So this was a really good opportunity to network with other families. To gather around. We'd have those coffee mornings.
Yes.
Where we would gather around and we would discuss
all the things,
common issues that we all faced. Issues with trucks, issues with our RVs.
Generators.
Because
we were all literally in a parking lot, 70-something RVs with generators running on top of each other. And it was a lot of fun, but it was also kind of a lot of work too. But
there are some challenges that full-time RVers face that you would initially think about. And so for us at that time, those issues that we had faced, we're like, okay, is it just us?
Right,
But then you found out that from other families that they had faced those same issues and what they had done to solve the problems.
Right, yeah.
So it was really kind of a great resource for that side of things. But then you started making friends with those families.
Yeah.
And the kids got together.
Yeah.
And we would have the potluck dinners.
Yes. And we found a faith community within that group as well. So we had two families that had motorhomes, and they had created this space between the two. One was parked one way and one was parked the other way.
Yep.
And we set up camp chairs all around in between those two RVs. And we had such a sweet time of fellowship and worship and prayer time. And that was really neat to just know that there were so many other families on the road that kind of wanted that too.
Yeah, we had a Australian pastor.
Yes, we did.
Who him and his family were traveling as well. And so he would lead those times together.
Yeah.
Just a great sense of community doing that, and something that lasted for years.
Yeah, and the cool thing about that is once that rally was over, like that really introduced us to this broader community. We actually left that rally and went straight to a service project with some of the families that we had met there at that rally. And we went to a Navajo youth camp in New Mexico. And we spent a week there doing painting projects and fixing things. And then from there, some of the families that were there, we re-met back up with some of the ones that were at the rally. And there were probably, I think there were 5 of us, 5 families that all went to the Grand Canyon after that. And we all met back up. We all had this huge camp loop. It was kind of a boondocking spot, a dry camp spot, just outside of the Grand Canyon.
It was really fun because so we were in a national forest.
Yes.
So when we got there was this large space just off of one of the forest roads there, with 2 entrances, an in and an out. Mm-hmm. And so what we did, because we always carried the orange cones with us.
Yep.
And so we got our RV into the right spot and put out the cones on both entrances so that we could reserve a space for when the others got there. Mm-hmm. And by the time they got there, it was getting dark, and we had strung out Christmas lights between the trees, made this like really cool little area
around the
there,
fire pit
around
area.
the fire pit, and everybody came in and parked up their motorhomes and fifth wheels, and we just spent that time there together. It really cemented our relationship with these families and these couples, and just was a great experience.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And then we had our South Padre group. We spent 2 winters down at South Padre.
Yeah.
With 40-something odd families, probably.
Yes. So we went to a county campground. Mm-hmm. It's actually the campground that people go to now to see the SpaceX launches at Boca Chica.
Yeah.
Which we did see those as well.
Yeah.
And so this county park has 600 sites.
Right.
And so there's a bunch of retirees there.
Yeah, I have to tell a story about the first time we were there, we were parked next to this really sweet retired couple.
Yeah.
And
some winter Texans.
Yep. And they were really baffled because every time they saw my kids, they saw them running around with other kids, right? So
yeah, a large group of them.
So he finally asked me, he said, "So are you here for like a family reunion?" And so I was like, well, not exactly. So I explained to him the full-time families community, and that basically we arrive at a campground that has other full-time families, and our kids have like instant friends.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter if they met each other before or hadn't. They're like, "Oh, you're a full-time family. Okay, we're friends." You know, it's just the most amazing thing.
So each one of the sites where the full-time families meet up at, generally what happens is someone will organize a Facebook message group. Mm-hmm. For that campground.
Yes.
So when you get there, you can jump on the group and say, "Hey, I'm here. Who else has kids aged 9?"
Right. Who wants to come paint seashells?
Yeah. Who wants to come paint seashells? Or we did
campfire, movie night.
That's where the Hurry for Curry night was invented.
Yes.
So
we have to do that here sometime.
We have to do that here. So I like to like a good British guy, I really enjoy a good Indian curry.
Yes.
So we have a chicken tikka masala recipe, and I will cook a large pot of chicken tikka masala and as much rice as we can cook. And we put out the message, "Hey, we're at site 87. First come, first served," and we have little bowls, and we'll serve up as much as we can until it's all gone.
Until it's gone. Yeah.
And so that was a great way to meet people too.
Yep. That's a lot of fun. "2020 was a really weird year for traveling people."
That was a difficult time in a lot of ways for everybody.
Right.
But for us, we had like a unique set of circumstances that we had to overcome.
Right. We were at another rally in Florida when the whole world shut down.
Yes.
And when we left there, we ended up traveling with another family for quite a few months while everything was still really, really weird.
And still friends with them to this day.
Yeah, that was a really special time. We just saw him just a couple of months ago on our trip. So stayed with him. We still had our community. Like, it was still around us, and still, we still did life together. And really, pretty much when we were traveling, we met so many people, and there are so many people that, some people were location based that we met at a certain place, but then you also have this traveling community that's also like constantly nomadic as well. So you might meet up with somebody, somewhere in the south, and then meet up with them again somewhere in the north at a different time of year when everybody goes north or when everybody goes south. Our community was all over the place, which was really fun because every time we would meet up again, it was like we would just pick up where we left off.
Yes, it was a continually growing community where you made new connections, and sometimes you'd meet up with a new family and you'd never met them before, but you both had a common family that you knew, and you could exchange stories about your travels with them, and that way you had a connection with this new family.
Right. It seems like in the RV community, you know how in the world they say you're like 6 people removed from anybody in the world. In the RVing community, you're literally like 2 people.
Right.
It's a very close community.
Very close, and we very much depended on each other. So when we gathered together, we would, so especially the guys would get together and talk about the latest problem with your truck, or how you'd had a blowout on the road.
Commiserate.
Commiserate, but then at the same time, it would be like, oh, I've had that problem before. This is what we did to solve it. We would even get to a campground where there were other families, and there would be one RV that would have a problem.
Issue, yeah.
So I remember we got to a campground just as other families were kind of getting ready to leave the next day.
Yeah.
And there was one family, they couldn't pull their slide in on their RV.
Right.
So we all got together, all the guys, and we just kind of like lifted and manhandled that slide back into the RV so that they could at least get to the next place.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really interesting now, too. So we have a house in Bellevue, Iowa, and just recently we had one of our traveling family friends
that we had met on the road.
They stopped through. This is actually the 3rd time that they've stopped through here to visit with us. And we had so much fun. We actually pulled the camper out and went up and camped with them at the state park for the whole sake. Oh, it was so nice. The boys set up a tent between the 2 RVs.
Because we always carry tents with us on our RV.
Yeah. And we had lots of campfires and coffees and all the things, and just really kind of celebrated that side of things. That was really nice. The traveling community is such a unique and special gift. We learned so much through such a variety of people when we were on the road. We met people that we, under other circumstances, one, we would have never met.
Yep.
And 2, if we had met in other circumstances, we might not have had much in common with them, so we probably wouldn't have hung out with them, honestly. But I think our viewpoint on life and friends and community really changed during our time on the road, because we met so many people that were different from us, but we also had things in common because we all lived on the road.
The main part, I think, that was common to most every family that we met was that we were reprioritizing our life.
And our families.
Our families were first. So the guys that I met, the dads, were all professionals, IT professionals, had been in some kind of executive role, whether secular, church world. And so they had been working solidly at something that was consuming them.
Right.
And had decided, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to miss my I'm going to miss my kids growing
Childhood,
up,
yeah.
their childhood. And so we need to refocus on family.
Right.
Now, it wasn't that they had thrown caution to the wind and were like, okay, I don't know how we're going to manage this at all.
Right.
And we're just going to go until we run out of food. It wasn't that.
No.
Everybody was being very creative about the way they were going to reapply their skills to something that would suit the on-the-road lifestyle. But it really did give you that core foundational interest and priorities in life that you could sit down together and share a bunch more.
Right.
So you're like, if we have this in common, then I wonder what else we have in common.
Right.
And then you get different perspectives.
And I think that's in life in general, right? Like if you actually have a conversation with someone,
Yes.
9 times out of 10, you're going to find that you have more in common with people than you have different.
Yes. Yes. And it also prevents you from making snap judgments
Absolutely.
based on appearance.
Absolutely.
It's funny that I would come across people that had like high level roles in companies. Mm-hmm. And you would never know that because we're all sitting outside RVs in a camp chair with shorts and t-shirt
Right.
on and a cap.
Right.
And,
Exactly.
roasting marshmallows around the same campfire, So it just didn't,
Yeah,
it was
it's leveling.
a great leveler. Now there were those that would come in the massive rigs.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, okay. And, but the majority
But they all still have to empty their tanks.
everyone has to empty the black tank. And the bigger the RV, the more black tank there is.
This is true.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about our community on the road. That was obviously a really special time and a good transition for us. But how about transitioning to our current community? What does that look like?
Our Bellevue life began with having a seasonal site here. So seasonal site is where you reserve a site for a long period of time. Mm-hmm. And often campgrounds will give you a good deal on something like that. We had already talked about slowing our pace down. Mm-hmm. Like when we were first on the road, we would jump from place to place like crazy.
Yeah, every few days sometimes, and that got really exhausting. So then we got to where we would stay like 2 weeks in a place,
which
or 3
works
weeks
better.
in a place. But we were ready. The kids were getting older, and we were ready to just kind of slow our roll a little bit.
Yeah. So, and also we had intentionally decided to get involved in a community somehow, somewhere. Mm-hmm. So when we began to do seasonal reservations here in Bellevue, we started to look around us at the not just at the RV park, but at the town as a whole.
Right.
So we got involved, first of all, in just getting the kids' library cards.
Yeah. And the library here was so gracious to give us library cards while we were here for the season. So we spent a lot of time at the library because we were also still homeschooling. So, we would get here before the school year was up, and we did some year-round homeschooling as well.
Yeah,
so,
we did.
But the kids were in and out of the library all the time, and Emily really kind of took a special liking to it, and she was invited to help them install their new maker space one summer.
She was at the library on a volunteer basis,
Mm-hmm.
and just really enjoyed making friends there. Yeah. And working on the maker's space and sorting books, cleaning out.
Mm-hmm,
so she got
that
plugged
was kind
in.
of her first introduction to this community, out in the community.
Right.
And then I had seen on Facebook again, I was always kind of trolling Facebook for looking for events for us to go to, or
things in the
opportunities that were there. And I had seen something about a food share program at one of the local churches. And so I reached out to them because I thought that would be a great opportunity for our family to volunteer, right? Because we love to serve. So So I reached out to them, and I wanted to make sure that the kids could participate, that we wanted to do it as a family, and they were like, absolutely, come on. So we did. We got started with the food share program, and gosh, we met so many people through that. Yep. And we still play a large role in that even now. So
yeah, that's really been something that has captured our hearts. Mm-hmm. Everybody has a need for food.
Yes.
And for some people, their budget for groceries comes somewhere down the list of priorities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so even if you have a job and
you're doing your best,
some months, other things become a priority.
Yeah.
So
that's what I love about this program too, is it's not income based. So it's it's need based. If you need food, come get it.
Just come and get it.
Yep.
And then we adopted a section of the butterfly garden at the state park.
Yeah, we did. So we actually adopted that little section of the butterfly garden before we actually bought a house here. So when we were here in the summer, we would go up there and maintain it and pull weeds and all of that. So
yeah. And another thing that we did was to hang out where the locals hung out.
We did.
So the local brewery.
Yes.
River Ridge Brewing.
Yes, it's right on the river, and we like to refer to it as Bellevue's backyard.
It definitely is Bellevue's backyard
kind
with a beautiful view.
With a beautiful view.
So it's right beside Lock and Dam 12, and so the tows come through there.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. They come right by the patio out back. So we hung out there. There was also the farm to table event that we did that first year.
Oh yeah.
They closed off one of the streets in town. They put out the round tables in the middle of the street, and then they had a kitchen right next door where
they prepared all the food.
Yeah, local chefs prepared the food and brought them out one at a time. Talked about the restaurant that they worked at.
Yeah, we met some really neat people that evening at our table because we didn't know anybody at that point. I think that was our first year we were here.
Yeah, it was a great way for us to step out of our comfort zone and get together with people that weren't full-timers.
Right. Yeah. But we all loved food though. That's why we were there.
We loved food, so we could talk about the food.
We did have a little bit of help when we first moved here getting introduced to the community, didn't we? So we were literally like here maybe a day when the newspaper out of the next town, Dubuque, contacted us and asked if they could interview us. So about landing in Bellevue after traveling.
Like we had just got here with our stuff.
Yeah.
And
our few things
that we had the reporter from the newspaper wanting to schedule with us to do this interview.
Yeah, and we didn't even have any furniture. We had our zero gravity chairs set up in the living room.
Camp chairs like in the living room.
So we ended up pulling in the little love seat couch from the RV so that we would have somewhere for the reporter to come in.
They were so excited to kind of capture that moment.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay.
Can we just have a minute?
Yeah, could you give us a minute?
But no, it was really cool. And that was kind of a neat way for the community here to kind of meet us and all of that. And then pretty soon after that, we got asked to do a presentation for one of the local friend groups.
Yes. And that was all of us, all four of us.
Our whole family.
So we rehearsed our parts that we were going to say with the kids. So we knew when to kind of go from one to the other. And they were just such a friendly group of people that came to listen to us.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a good representation of this community. And it was really neat to kind of introduce ourselves kind of in person
to tell our story
to the people here in Bellevue. And we got asked another time to share with another group. So there are a lot of people in Bellevue that know who we were or knew who we were. And we're still trying to navigate learning who everyone else is. So.
Yes, because they like with the new additions, they only have to remember one new family's names.
Right, yeah.
And we're trying to get
Learn
to know
3,000 names.
Yeah, that's how many people live here. Everybody was like, please tell us why you decided
chose Bellevue.
Of all of the places in the nation that you visited, why did you decide on Bellevue? And it's like the local pride. It's like,
Yeah.
we they came here.
Yeah.
So I
A
think
big part of why we did choose Bellevue was the community here.
Absolutely
like the
it was.
feeling of belonging somewhere. And when we would leave here, we wouldn't stop thinking about it until we got back. Like
Yes.
it just pulled us
from
back
season
here.
to season. And the kids began to work at the local grocery store here.
Yeah. So they get to see everybody in town all the
Yes,
time.
all the time.
Sometimes several times a day.
They love that job there. They really
Oh,
do.
they do.
They're meeting other kids at the same time as working, and sort of it's just a great introduction to
And I can't tell you how many people have said to me, I love going into the grocery store and seeing your kids there.
Right.
They just always make me smile, and that just warms my mama heart. I love that. So
And then we just recently
Mm-hmm.
joined the Chamber of Commerce.
we did. And we've also attended a couple of events for kind of businessy, networking, entrepreneurial kind of things.
Yes.
So we're trying to expand that community a little bit here
Make
as
connections
well.
with the business community.
Yep.
Yep.
Uh-huh. And then we have our really sweet core group of friends that we just pretty much do life with here in Bellevue. And it's just been such a great thing since we've been here to build those friendships and to be a part of each other's lives and encourage each other. And
They've been so supportive of us as we have made the transition from living on the road to living here in one place. Just really generous people,
yes,
kind people.
yes.
And those relationships have been core to our family feeling welcome in this community.
Absolutely. Yes.
So what we're talking about today is the importance of community.
Strong communities are critical because they're often an important source of social connection.
Yes.
And they give you a sense of belonging. And everybody wants to belong. Everybody wants to have their people, their tribe. So whether that community is like ours was for many years on the road, or whether that's your local community, everybody wants to feel like they belong somewhere.
It gives you a perspective on life where you can handle the trials that life brings to you.
Right.
Like if we're isolated and we're facing a trial, that trial can get blown out of proportion. If that's because that's all you're seeing.
Right.
Whereas if you're in a community of people that are also having some struggles in life, you can then say, well, I'm not alone.
And share each other's burdens.
You can share each other's burdens.
Yep.
I'm not the only one around here that's facing these problems.
Right.
My friends are too, and they
Right.
seem to be doing fine. So having a positive attitude on life doesn't mean that your life is perfect.
That
in
trials never come, because
Right.
they do.
No, so you're not sort of ignoring the fact that there are trials in your life, but what you're doing is choosing to say, this isn't what life is all about. My life is not the sum total of my problems. My life is about the part that I play in my family and the role that I play in the community, the role I play as a business owner,
Right.
the role I play as a dad,
Right.
as a friend.
Yep.
So with a sense of perspective, life becomes more manageable.
It does. Yeah. We've ended up with this beautiful hybrid community of nomadic friends
Yep.
and local friends and friends and family back in Texas.
Yes. Yeah, it's a group of friends from across the country.
Yeah. And the world.
That represent moments in our life where we connected, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, it's really special. Our challenge to you, our listener, is just that. Find your tribe.
Yeah, get involved in the things that are around you. Find out where people are gathering together that have common interests. So, for instance, if you have a love of gardening, here in Bellevue, there's public spaces where you can adopt a section.
Right.
You can meet with other people and weed and plant, and it just it adds to the beauty of the town.
You don't have to have everything in common, though. That's kind of what makes it fun.
Yeah.
So
Variety.
Yeah. So learn from others who aren't exactly like you. Step out. Be kind. Love others. Offer your gifts wherever you are, and you'll find your community.
Thank you for listening today. In our next episode, we will be talking about living with quirky people.
We have a few of those. That's going to be a fun one. I can't wait to see what kind of conversation comes out of that topic.
So, if you haven't guessed by now, there is one of us that kind of comes up with the topics, and so quirky. Okay. So, thank you again to Tyler and Kelsey for being able to use your music on our podcast. Please check out their music on Spotify and on Apple. We provided their links in our show notes.
And if you have any questions you would like us to answer or suggestions for things you would like us to talk about in future podcasts, simply email us at beautifulviewpod@gmail.com. You can also now follow Beautiful View Podcast on Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, we've gone social.
We have.
So we'll be posting pictures of things that we've talked about on the podcast, of places that we visited, basically anything that gives you an idea of what we're talking about.
Yeah. We hope you have a great day, and remember to always keep an eye open for opportunities to see a beautiful view.
We could climb a mighty mountain, float on down a winding river, travel back in time and face our future too. Oh, I'm not scared of where I'm going, 'cause I know whose hands I'm holding. Oh, I'd go anywhere as long as you're going to. And I'd go anywhere as long as I'm with you. Yeah, I'd go